screen share?
Yeah.
Cool.
Looks fine.
All right. Cool. Welcome, everybody. We're just getting started. Hi, Tanvi. Hi, Shivam. Glad to have you folks on the call.
Ray.
So,
hey.
Yeah, we're just, hey, good morning. Or I guess it's already afternoon for you folks in the East Coast.
Everything's great here. Weather's going
Cool.
great. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Just waiting for like RTM or Pavel to join, but then we should be able to get things started. All right, sorry, apologies for the silence, especially for those people on the live stream. But as we get going, feel free to post your questions. I mean, you can voice your questions too during the call, but feel free to post questions either on the live stream on YouTube or on the Zoom chat. So. Well, Hassan and Igor, could you do me a quick favor and ping RTM? Like I don't see him on Zoom for some reason. Yeah, appreciate that. Don't want to necessarily get started before he's on. Yeah, so while we're waiting for RTM, just quick household items. I mean, once again, welcome to the monthly call. It's good to get together with community members, even if it's virtually once a month. So it's been fun doing this over the past several months. Just a quick reminder again, this is something we do at all events at Cube. Just remind people that, you know, like all good open source projects, we do have a community code of conduct. We want to have a welcoming and respectful environment. So you can read the full text there. I won't go through them here. And if you have any concerns, there's also an email alias to ping us if you have any concerns. What we'll be covering today, so quick community news, and you know, once RTM or Pavel gets on, we'll do the Q2 roadmap. I also have a quick wrap up or a summary of, you know, what we accomplished in Q1 for our roadmap activities. And then we have our friends here from COTA to talk about the user story that we published a couple of weeks ago, which we're very excited and happy about. So we'll go through that, and then Hassan's back with once again doing popular feature demos. And obviously, you know, if people have any questions, I mean, you don't have to wait until the end. Voice your questions or comments during the call. But you know, if you have, we'll make sure that all questions are answered towards the end. Doesn't look like RTM's here yet, but let's just move on and get started. We'll shuffle things around if need be. So on quick community news, I mean, we talked about this last month about the Cube.js discourse forum. We sort of did a soft launch last month, and I want to thank people for contributing your topics and posts already. So we have all the categories there. I think we have like 6 or 7 of them, with the exception of one, have you know, several topics already. So we published a blog post yesterday that I wrote on our rationale for creating a discourse forum and what we want to see there. And then we also updated, you'll see the screenshot here of we updated the community page to include a section on discourse. And what we really want to do is use discourse as a community knowledge base we want this to be a place for people to share their use cases and recipes as you're using Cube.js. So, we can use other mediums that we currently have, like things like Slack for real-time conversations. But if you feel that your discussion or your topics would be helpful for community members later on, even months down the road, I think this course would be a better place where you can share your recipes or share your use cases. So we definitely want to encourage people to do that. So let me know if you have any questions on this course. I think we got up to a good start, and we're going to have some fun merchandise or swag giveaways for early adopters or people especially creating new topics. So I'll probably post those. I mean, those swag items are coming in from overseas. So once I receive them, I'll probably post photos of those swags either on Slack or Twitter. So stay tuned for that. In terms of roadmap, unfortunately, our team's not here yet, but I'll just talk about Q1, and then maybe we'll circle back on the Q2 roadmap items later on. For Q1, we had 4 epics. The one at the bottom, the view integration, was actually a carryover from Q4 because we weren't able to quite finish that in Q4. In Q1, all 4 epics are done. So great job to people like Alex, Pavel, and Dimitri and Hassan, of course, and other people on working through a lot of the issues and PRs for the epics, but also community members who provided feedback. We definitely appreciate that, and we appreciate your input on this. And we'll probably continue to do additional authentication and authorization work in Q2. So stay tuned for that. You'll probably see new issues or PRs that are created. But the goals that we set out for authentication and authorization in Q1 is pretty much done. But like everything else, work will continue. On Q2, so I created a project in GitHub. So there's a project number 8, and we again have like 4 epics. And once RTM or Pavel, either of them are back on, we'll ask them to go through these in detail. But 4 epics on improving Cube.js Docker distribution, pre-aggregations developer experience. And we also want to streamline database driver support. We had a lot of discussions, especially on Slack, or suggestions on Playground, and that we'll have an ongoing work going for the Playground as well. So what I'll do, since our team's not on, I'll kind of skip through the rest of the slides. The rest of them, basically, I opened separate issues for each of these epic items that you can read through. But once RTM joins, we'll ask him to go through these in a little bit more detail, but I'll skip these for now. And Tanvi, if you don't mind, we can just skip through the user stories, and we'll discuss these for about like 15 or so minutes, if that's okay with you. We'll just circle back on the details on the Q2 items once we have people back on. So cool. So yeah, so like I said, we have Shubham and Tanvi, and we might, if I'm missing others from COTA team, please let me know. We published a user story, which we're very happy about on the 23rd. Appreciated, your team's, contribution, not just on the user stories, but you've been an early adopter for a long time, for the past couple of years. So obviously you'll if you go to our blog page, you'll see the full details of the user stories here, and appreciate you have a lot of these like code samples or snippets, which really appreciate it, and then I'm sure a lot of developers as well. So this was very helpful. So Tanvi and Shubham, I'll first of all, I'll let you sort of introduce yourselves and also the company and what you do, and how data analytics is important at your company.
Sure, I can start off. Although Tanvi's been really the driver of a lot of this as our primary engineer, and I think we have Sudhakar on the call as well. So my name is Sheila Mathura. I lead product and strategy at COTA, and in particular, my background was in enterprise data and analytics. I came from a company prior to COTA that really specialized in bringing data together. And when I joined COTA, it was definitely a question of like, how can we take the data asset that we have regarding oncology patient data and use that to drive cancer research and accelerate drug development and help oncologists make better decisions with patient information. So for us, there have been a lot of different data-related use cases across, healthcare, treating patients, doing clinical types of research or health outcomes research, or even working with clinical trials. And what was really important for us was coming to a technical architecture and solutioning those data analytics products to fit the needs of our users and making it really intuitive, not just for the people who are using it, but our internal team, who we have a really small development team who are really talented, but we wanted to make sure that we were building things in a way that was maintainable for them and also could really find efficiencies and optimize the time that we were spending to build out these different products that we were testing. So Cube was a really natural fit when we discovered it. And like Ray was saying, we adopted it really early on because it seemed really interesting and really promising. And the team in particular was really willing to work with us as we started to scope out different parts of our own product and build support for us as we had new ideas and new formulations and really had experimental product practices that hardened over time as you guys built support for us to keep going. So I'll turn it over to Tanvi to go into a little bit more detail about the different projects specifically that we did, but really grateful for the collaboration, happy to continue the working relationship. And if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me or anybody else from COTA on the call, and we can happy to connect. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Shivam. So hi, everybody. This is Tanvi here. I am a senior software engineer at COTA. And as Shivam said, we were one of the first few early adopters because I think we had a good timing on, we were trying to find out a solution which would help us to do faster querying and I would say querying the data set as fast as we can. So as Shivam mentioned, we work in healthcare and we have a lot of data sets and everything. So we started to use Cube with BigQuery, and initially we had Ray, can you open the user story? I just want to walk through that. Yeah, can you go up? So through the architecture diagram. Yeah, so I just want to walk you through how we have implemented or where we have placed Cube in our system. So as you can see, it's a very simple architecture on the top. Our front end is Angular. We are on Angular 10 and use TypeScript and Plotly as our visualization library. So that's our front end. And the Cube client resides there. A Cube server and a Cube server is on a Node Express service, which is run through GCP. We, as Shiva mentioned, we are on heavily using data. So for us, pre-aggregation, dynamic schema generation was the key to pick Cube.js. That said, if we can go just a bit down, we have an example of how we use, just more down. Yeah, this example. So we actually have a lot of tables which have JSON data because we want to aggregate that data in one place and keep the master data intact. So that said, we since it's a JSON object and can have multiple attributes inside it, we didn't want to add every time a new dimension or update the schema every time. You want it to be the value to be picked up from the JSON object. So we moved to the async module where if you see an example where a customer can have a customer ID and different products towards it. So you can see that for every type, we generate the dimension name with using the SQL dynamically and create the pre-aggregation script to generate it for each value for us. So this helps in faster querying for any JSON-ified table, if how you want to call it. So that is one thing where we depend upon Cube. Pre-aggregations definitely in lot many places where we have multiple dependencies, multiple normalized tables. And one more thing, like since we work on Angular and people who use it for Angular framework, like in a client server kind of service model, you might have a users who keep on clicking things everywhere and like have a feature where client requests a lot many server requests are going at one time. Angular provides an out of the box HTTP interceptors where you can like just cancel out the services, like cancel out the request and handle any success 400 or anything how you want to do it. So we did not have that initially with Cube, but Cube had implemented mutex. So people who have worked in vanilla JavaScript might know mutex, like how it works and all. So we tried to implement that with Angular, and it seems to work. Is where like we just keep a parent mutex object and pass on each key for every like I would say every request has a unique key to it. And if the key and Cube service is, I think, really interesting in that where they negate they negate the previous request if the key was already received to them. So it implements interceptors, not exactly interceptor, but based on the logic of mutex. So I think this is where they actually like nailed it perfectly for us without using interceptors. So this is another good thing which we felt was an interesting implementation from our side. And yeah, I think that's it. Like this is how we have like tried to just put the gist of how we have leveraged Cube in our applications. If you have any questions, just let me know. And Sudhakar, he's the VP of engineering. He's also here in this call. Sudhakar, if I've missed anything.
No, I think you covered all the technical aspects. And everybody should feel free to reach out to us with any questions around this. But one thing I want to kind of go back to, like, is we were using prior to, Cube, the use cases that we were trying to figure out in terms of building these apps. There are a lot of solutions out there in the industry, right? There are solutions such as Tableau, Click, Looker, and quite a few that target sort of this landscape of applications that people can build that can be used in a variety of scenarios within the enterprise. But one of the things that I felt was compelling about Cube was really just the developer experience, right? You don't want, a lot of the other tools require you to kind of go deep into, let's say, like if I wanted to become a Tableau developer or a Looker developer, I'd spend a lot of time on configuration. I'd spend a lot of time on setting things up. I'll spend a lot of time on understanding, how to organize within Tableau or Click or Looker. Here, I'm focusing on the code. I'm less concerned about like, how do I organize this and so on and so forth? Because I know that a lot of developers can always build apps using frameworks, and they can customize it to the needs of their specific use cases and also to their own enterprise. And they just want to be able to do that rapidly, as opposed to having to worry about setup, learning new tool chains, learning completely new things that may not necessarily be in the realm of, let's say, app development or code. So that is really a huge thing for us. And therefore, leveraging Cube for what it does best, which is allowing for querying, allowing for slicing, dicing of data, that combined with the developer experience of being able to build what we wanted. We have two different apps, like, two or three different apps, and you'll see that the interface is different for them. But then underneath, there's a lot that gets shared because we're able to leverage the capabilities across the board. So so that's the other thing to keep in mind is for us that was a key aspect, that the developer experience was very good in terms of not having to go learn something that may or may not be directly in your, especially for developers who are trying to learn more about frameworks and code, less about configuration and how to move things around on a screen and configure a dashboard sort of thing. That's not what they're really about. So I think those are the two main things. So just wanted to mention that.
Cool. Well, thank you, Sudhakar, and also appreciate both you and Shivam of providing quotes for the user story as well. And you sort of I think anticipated one of the questions that I had. You talked about from a developer perspective, this make their lives easier. But now that you've had Cube.js role in deployment for a while, from an end user perspective, what are some of the feedback that you've gotten from the end users? I think Shivam, you also mentioned that you have a lot of internal users of the dashboard as well, right? So if you can speak to that, I think that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've gotten really good feedback from some of the users of our clinical facing tool as well. It's called Real World Analytics, which is available for physicians to interact with. And I think a lot of the front end design that Tanvi's put together is fairly intuitive for them, and the performance has been really good because they don't like to wait for anything to show up. And in terms of our internal users, I think the flexibility at which we've been able to pull in and visualize different data sets together and slice and dice them in different ways. And I think our internal users also like to have a really experimental approach and try things out. And we've had a really good back and forth with them because our iteration cycles have been really, really fast and really tight. So I think we've gotten to really good product outcomes by being able to, one, spend more time working on the actual end product and not in building an architecture that's really hard for us to support. And the rapid development cycles have been really, really helpful for us in terms of executing in a timely fashion.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. And Tanvi, I think as we're working on the user story a couple of months ago, I think it was interesting that you brought up, I think you referenced it here too, about pre-aggregations. I take advantage of pre-aggregations wasn't necessarily a straightforward or intuitive. Could you share? I think your feedback's been very valuable. That's something we're trying to improve with documentation and other areas. So your feedback's been very valuable. But could you share some of the examples of some of the gotchas you ran into with pre-aggregations?
Yeah, so I personally, I haven't worked into data so much initially. So whenever we needed pre-aggregations or any kind of aggregations or any kind of a custom column, if I can call it, in the tables, I had to go to the data team, check with them, what's happening, what's the flow, how does this flow, and give me this. I used to do that initially. But when we started to use Cube, and when it started to go through the documentation, I talked to Pavel, Artyom, and Hassan, they have been really helpful to us. So when we started digging around here and there, we realized that pre-aggregations were out of the box in Cube, and we were not initially leveraging it. So we learned it, how to use it, how to get it done. And I think today we don't go to the data team, do it ourselves, do the scripts, definitely review the scripts from their side, but get all the everything done on our end. So right now, as I said, application then holds everything regarding pre-aggregations, and we own them, and we play or do any kind of massaging required to it using Cube, and we don't do anything inside the services. So that's where it has helped in a lot of performance stuff, because initially when it goes to the data you have from the next team, you might not always get what you want. So you have to do some post massaging and all that, which we have totally avoided right now. So that's where we leverage the pre-aggregations.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, appreciate your feedback on pre-aggregations, and also it's also mentioned in the user story. I think when we're like advanced Boolean logic is another area where we got a lot of good feedback from you. So yeah, definitely appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
I mean, the advanced Boolean
yeah.
logic is something which we missed, but that has been like a game changer for a lot of our like tools which we use in the product. So Shivam and Sudhakar might definitely agree, like that is something which was pending from, like I would say, how we would to do a querying in the application and give all the power to the user to build it out. So that was a very good, I would say, feature given by Cube. So yeah, thank you guys for that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. So let me pause here. Appreciate all of your thoughts here. Let me pause here, and I'm going to check through chats and YouTube to see if there are any questions. Are there other folks on the call, like if you have any questions? I mean, obviously you can reach out to Tanvi and others on Slack. I mean, you'll see that Tanvi's already posted on Discourse as well. So and then I should have a Discourse topic on the COTA user story. So if people have other questions or comments, you can add them there, and we'll do our best to get them answered. Cool. If there are no other questions, I mean, thank you, Shivam, Tanvi, Sudhakar, and others on the COTA team. And obviously our collaboration's not done. We'll continue working together, and definitely look forward to it. And I almost forgot, like for those of you who don't know, Tanvi is one of our Cube.js heroes, and well-deserved recognition. I think she's been helping us develop better product and community over the past almost 2 years. So definitely appreciate that, and yeah, look forward to it. Cool. So so next up is on the feature demos, and I noticed that our team's on as well. So Hassan, should we cover the Q2 roadmap first, or do you want to do your demos first? And I think those are all related, so I'm not sure if it really makes a difference. So I mean, what I'll do is I'll stop sharing, and Hassan, you can do your feature demos, and we can go back to the roadmap items if that works. So would that work? Or
yes, that's great.
Sorry. All right, so I'll stop sharing. Right, there you go, Hassan.
Cool. Can anyone see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the feature demos for the April community call. Today, I wanted to show off a couple of things: a enhanced getting started flow, some quality of life improvement for the developer playground, and finally, our new hot off the press Vue integrations. So to start with, I'm going to be in a terminal, and I'm just going to create a new folder and CD into it. And then just so we're sure, it's a new folder with absolutely nothing in it right now. And I'm going to use Docker run to run an image. I'm going to map port 4000 and create a volume called cube mounted at kubeconf, an environment variable Cube.js dev mode true, and finally the image name itself, which is Cube.js cube. So going to hit enter, and in a short while we should see it ready. So now it says that it's ready. If I go load it up, we now have a database connection wizard, and this is something that we hope will make your lives a lot easier when setting up Cube.js for the first time. So I'm going to click Postgres, and I'm just going to use values that I've already used before. And then we simply hit apply. There is a minor bug right now which we're working on, but if you refresh the page, it should work fine after that. So now we've connected, there's no schemas right now, so we will generate a schema really quickly. And now if we look in the playground, we actually have some measures and dimensions, and this goes on to the next feature demo where we now have a run button. Queries are not automatically executed, but now you have to explicitly click the run button. And as you can see, now we have the results. We can change to a bar chart. And this leads us into the next part of the demo where we have a new option, view. And this uses the chart kick library with view to generate charts within the playground. You can open Code Sandbox and you can see a code base that uses the view chart from there. You can play around with it here. And if you want, you can also just see a simplified version of the code from here. So that's everything in the build tab in the query where you can make queries. We also have a new dashboard. So here's dynamic view Beautify UI dashboard. So I've created one before just to save a bit of time. Let's just refresh it just so you can see. And we have our fields here, orders count, orders status, and we have pretty much the same data. We can add it to the dashboard. And here we go. We can create similarly a pie chart of the same, just to show a chart, and add to dashboard. There you have it. That's the dynamic view dashboard. And yeah, that's and we can actually delete them. I'm sure if you've used the dashboards before, you will have seen this functionality. And yeah, that's it for the feature demos.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. And
Right.
yeah, let me go
questions?
back. Yep. I don't see anything right now, but let me go back to sharing my screen here real quick. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask some questions, or if you think of something else, I mean, feel free to create topics under the community category in Discourse, and Hassan and I will make sure that those get responded to. Cool. Thanks, Hassan. So this is a pretty popular topic for our monthly calls and becoming a great tradition.
Absolutely. So, thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah. And then, this actually ties in pretty well with the Q2 roadmap discussion. Hey, Artyom, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Sorry, I joined the call a little bit later.
No, not a problem. So yeah, I basically covered, provided a summary of Q1 and at a high level Q2 roadmap. I think we can start from slide 2. I could have sort of read through this, but I think it would be better for either you or Pavel to sort of provide some commentary on each of the epic issues that we created. So we can just start from slide 8 if that works.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to walk you guys through some, of the biggest epics that we are planning to work in Q2. That in a lot of cases, sort of the continuation of the work we did in Q1. So one thing that we definitely wanted to improve is sort of, we call it the Docker distribution. And that's mainly what Hassan just demoed to you. It's all about the getting started experience with Docker, especially in development mode. we started to see lately in about last 3 to 6 months is a lot of new users starting with cubes within Docker, not within NPM that it used to be. So we want to make sure that we have a really first-class support for getting started with Docker, especially given that Cube Store is being a part of the every Cube distribution now. And it makes a lot of sense to package everything together as a single Docker distribution and kind of just improve some configuration level things to make it easier to get started with Docker, and at the same time to streamline the development process if you run in Cube inside the Docker distribution. So if you have any issues, you see any bugs or something just doesn't work right while you're using Cube inside Docker, please feel free to file a GitHub issue, ping us on Slack. That would be very, very helpful as we head down this quarter working on just improvement in a way we work inside the Docker. And the next one is, and Ray, if you could please go up, thank you. The next one is really a lot about pre-aggregations. And I know that pre-aggregations is the most powerful, one of the most powerful features of Cube, but at the same time is probably the most hard to use right now. And we just want to make sure that we will make it easier to use. You know, like we don't want every Cube developer to be a data engineer, right? Like, or very good kind of have understanding how aggregation work and all of this. So our goal here is to make it as easier as possible to make pre-aggregations work for everyone. It means that we'll add some tools into Playground to inspect your queries to say that the query doesn't use pre-aggregation and that it took like that amount of time to process, and then you would be able to really easy apply pre-aggregation without any, you know, like doing additional configuration like provisioning external databases, all of this. Just kind of put a few lines of code into the data schema and the pre-aggregation should work out of the box. And it also, inside this epic, will do a lot of work to make sure that all your pre-aggregations that are working in a development mode, it would be really easy to move them into production. Just to making sure that background refresh workers is working, it can execute concurrent pre-aggregations. We improve the error messages. So if, you know, like just to give you better understanding, if something goes wrong, what is the problem? So like a general improving the developer experience of both developing, testing, and bringing pre-aggregations into production. If you could please move to the next one. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, and that's one, it's sort of long overdue already, is we have about 15 database drivers right now. And sometimes that they have a different level of feature support. And some features work great within one, you know, like it's a BigQuery driver, but they don't work well with, say, Snowflake driver. So our goal here would be to put a well-developed test suite against drivers. So we would be able to build reports and have a better documentation, have a better understanding of what features are supported within different drivers. That would help our users a lot, kind of understanding what to expect from different drivers. And also it would help us as a core team to improve the existing drivers, and also it will help contributors a lot to build new drivers, to improve existing drivers, to build the features. That would give sort of a visibility into what features are working within Cube and what features aren't working within Cube, and what we can do to fix them. And also as part of this epic, we will bring our first non-SQL driver. It's going to be a native open source Elasticsearch driver. I know it's been requested a lot of times already. We have sort of existing open distro driver, but it's not that well because of the limitations of the SQL and Elasticsearch. It doesn't support a lot of features. So we decided to build native Elasticsearch driver and open source it. So that's going to be our first NoSQL driver, and hopefully it's going to be not the last one. Cool. And we also committed to continue to improve things in a Playground. We did like a lot of work in Q1, like adding security context, releasing this run button. We want to continue to improve things. Just the main goal here to focus on the use cases that users use Playground right now, like specifically around how to test a query, how to make sure that query hits cache or doesn't hit a cache. So query hits pre-aggregation, what pre-aggregation needs to be used, to inspect a query's JSON, to inspect a query's SQL. We already have a lot of features, but sometimes Playground, it can get a little bit hard to use. So we just want to make sure to spend some time on the sort of UI UX part of this to make it, to help just basically improve the way it works and, you know, like make lives of developers much easier when working with a Playground. I think that was the last one. Yeah, happy to answer any questions if you may have about our roadmap this quarter.
Any questions? I'm checking the chats here. Yeah, is specifically on the roadmap. I'll be creating a topic on discourse as well. So if there are any questions, you know, we'll be happy to answer them there. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these the work items that we have for Q2, I think these are pretty frequently asked or frequently made requests on Slack, for instance. So definitely looking forward to it, and I'm sure a lot of the community members are as well. So
I see one question in Slack from James. And I think that Hassan could take this question because he's literally working on this right now. Hassan, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sorry. We are literally here, as Artem said, we're working on them right now. And so we should have them out there very soon, hopefully by the end of this week. We have started, there is some minor documentation already available if you check the using pre-aggregations page under the caching section in the sidebar. But we would, you know, always love feedback. And if you think there's something missing there or things we can expand on, please do let us know on Slack or Discourse, however, and we'll take your feedback into consideration.
Yeah, and I mean, for those of you that are, you know, potentially watching the recording, the question on the chat was on the Cube Store documentation. So hopefully by next week or so, we'll see more docs available. So thanks for the question, James. Any other questions or feedback? Cool. It looks like that's a wrap. Thanks again, COTA team, for being on the call, and all the other people that joined us live and watching the recording. And we'll do this again next month. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah. Bye.
Take care, everybody.